Hey, what's up, YouTube? Just came back from the local burrito place up here. Greek-owned business, nice guy, him and his wife. And this quarantine hit them really hard in the beginning, but they were still able to use their drive-through services, so that helped. And then now they can allow people to come inside the restaurant and sit down. You just have to wear a mask. And so their business picked up a little bit. So they're getting by. But they have employees that they gotta pay. They have rent. They have overhead. They have to buy food. They have to, light bills and all those kinds of things that go along with running a business. So in the beginning, they were hit really hard, and it was hard to, unless you went to the drive-through, they weren't serving anybody. That was it. And they had to close early sometimes, and this mask ain't really doing what it's supposed to do. Oh, by the way, this library right here, which is LA County Library, has been shut down since the beginning of the pandemic. And this is my local library where I like to come. But unfortunately, it's closed. It's been closed since the beginning of all this stuff. And I've heard so many different things. I've heard it's political because they were waiting for the November elections and they're trying to keep the economy bad so that it makes Trump look bad so that the Democrats will win. I've heard that theory. I've heard some other theories. Then I saw a post today that AOC, which is, you guys know Alexandria OcasioCortez. She's a political figure, a congresswoman, that she posted something on her Twitter telling the states that are largely Democratic states like California and others to continue with the shutdown of the economy until Trump is out of office. So even at the risk of people getting laid off, fired, evicted, they're playing political games with us. Because I read the post and it showed her Twitter and it showed that it was her page, and then it said she took the post down. And if it's true, I don't know why she would even post that in the first place, because it makes no sense that you would say something like that on your Twitter page when you know that's like kind of like political suicide. She's got a Twitter page that anybody can follow. She has like 7.5 million followers from what I saw. Let this mask just go. So if it's true, because I don't know, it's hard to believe anything nowadays. If that's true, if it is true, it would make the Democratic Party look even worse than it already does. And I'm not saying the Republican Party is the savior of the planet Earth either, because they're not. I am not a Republican, nor am I a Democrat. I don't title myself. The only title that I have is Christian, or disciple of Jesus. That's my title. And by God's grace, I was able to become a United States Marine. That's a title. Still a human, earthly title, doesn't really matter. So at the end of the day, talking about AOC's post, if it's true, if she said that, it would clear up a lot of things. Questions that people have, questions that I have anyways. For instance, why is the lockdown so strictly enforced in some states and not others? Then you have to wonder, when you look at the mortality rate, which is very low, lower than the flu. It was bad in the beginning. It was. the epidemic or the pandemic, it hit the whole planet Earth, hit everybody pretty hard. But it seems like, by and large, our bodies are able to recover and develop a type of resistance to it. Some people have gotten it and didn't know it, and they were asymptomatic, and they never even had symptoms, but they can pass it on. That's just, to me, the way it's always been with human beings. But now we have testing so you can see who's got it and who doesn't. Back in the day, they weren't testing for people who had the flu. They were just testing for things that were, like if you have a fever, so they want to know why you have a fever. So they do blood work and so forth. Now with the way technology is so much advanced in the medical field and any other field, they can just hold something up to your forehead, tells them something's wrong, and then you get tested. Oh wait, you have COVID-19. So they're able to determine much quicker, through the testing now, who's got it and who doesn't. So when you look at that, it just makes you wonder, because 6 people died in a 24-hour period. This is what I saw yesterday. And God rest their souls, because I don't want anybody to die from this. So the 6 people that perished, again, rest in peace. Hi guys. But I'm sure, because this was just in the state of California, I'm sure with the state as heavily populated as ours is, which we're one of the most heavily populated states out of all 50 states. Just in our state of California, I know that we have over 40 million. I don't know the exact numbers, but it's over 40 million. Somebody told me that it's close to 50 million. Could be, I don't know. But I know it's over 40 throughout the entire state. More densely populated areas like Los Angeles City, San Diego City, San Francisco City have to deal with the COVID-19 virus pandemic a little bit more strictly than sparse, outdoorsy farmlands and desert areas like Hesperia, Victorville, areas that are sparse. So I can understand a densely populated area like LA, San Francisco, San Diego, Sacramento. I can understand stricter rules. Makes sense, because you don't want that spreading unchecked in an area like that. Okay, but for the areas that don't have to deal with so much population density like we do here in the LA area, LA County. I'm in Whittier. Whittier's not that densely populated. I don't even know what the census shows for the population of Whittier, but it's not that dense. That's why I like living here. It's not crowded as like LA. But my whole idea on this whole thing is that, like I said, I'm sad for the 6 people that lost their lives. But if only 6 people tragically perished from COVID-19 in a 24-hour period, and I just saw this statistic yesterday. And this was through CDC and California State Governor's post on what they do when they keep current statistics of hospitals and things like that. If only 6 people perished in a 24-hour period, which is 6 too many. Again, I don't want to see anybody perish. I just honestly don't see the need for such a panicky, ridiculously overwrought response to this, which is, it's a pandemic. It is a virus. It's real. I'm not discounting it. People have died. It's tragic. It's sad. But people die from cancer, from heroin overdoses, from DUIs every weekend, actually, on DUIs every day. And to me, that's far more tragic in my opinion. We just recently sent 2,000 United States Marines overseas to the Middle East because of something that was going on over there, and they needed to get there, so they were instantly in harm's way. 2,000 Marines, which, because of what the nature of a Marine's job is, you're going to find yourself in harm's way with people who cannot stand you because you're an American and you're a military person, you represent the United States of America. They're going to try to kill you. They're going to shoot you or blow you up with an IED or an RPG. They're going to try to kill you. They have AK-47s, they got RPKs, they got RPGs, they got IEDs, you name it. Machine guns, sniper fire. There's a lot of ways to battle troops. And these guys are risking their lives overseas and may get shot or blown apart. And there's not a whole lot of talk about it. There's actually very little talk about it. And they are in constant danger, under massive threat of loss of life. And for the 6-month deployment, which is typically what a deployment is, sometimes longer, sometimes shorter, that's 6 months, which is 180 days of direct danger at behest of your life, which, as you guys know, we've had a series of the war on terror, 9/11 attacks, everything that's happened since 9/11, moving forward up until now. There's been wars and rumors of wars. There's been people killed in Afghanistan, people killed in Iraq, people killed in the 9/11 tragedies, which was a terrorist attack, and in one day thousands of people lost their lives just by going to work. All of those things are tragic events, and they happen. We responded after 9/11 with measures to counteract terrorism, but we kept our life and our lifestyle. We didn't social distance. We still had marathons. The Boston Marathon tragedy of the attack, that those two they were brothers. They were two Islamic radical brothers. They were brothers, and they blew up a trash can or something at the Boston Marathon. People died. People were injured. The Boston Marathon the next year still had it. Just there's measures taken. We rebuilt the Twin Towers. There's 2 more right now to replicate, to replace the 2 that were lost. And there's a monument in place where the originals were, original 2 towers. And for the people that lost their lives, the firefighters and police officers and security officers, and the people that were just going to work, and a lot of people died, a lot of people suffered. People were breathing in all those chemicals afterwards, so there's a residual effect of that. And it was tragic. It was a big hit on the United States. Financially, emotionally, spiritually, we lost a lot of lives. But it didn't deter us from being American. It didn't stop us from forging ahead and not letting people dictate to us how we live our lives. Now, all of a sudden, they seem like they figured out a way to dictate how we can live our lives. They've taken away our freedoms. I don't mind wearing a mask outside of the business. I do it. It's the directive. But many people have lost their jobs. Many people are being evicted. There's a lot of stuff going on. And if you look at the worldwide global scale, not everybody's doing the same response that the United States is having. And they're not having these major catastrophic deaths worldwide like they once, when it first hit, when the virus first hit. They're getting along with their lives. Look at Italy. Italy got hit really hard, and they lost a lot of people. It was sad. But they corrected things. They got their medical staff on point. They got test kits. They got the ventilators and things that they needed. It took a while because their economy is not like ours. That virus cycled through their whole population, and they built up a resistance to it. And the people are moving and grooving again. And like I said, tragically, people lost their lives. But why are they okay in a sense? They're okay. Italy's okay. China's okay. China's not experiencing a whole great deal of crazy pandemic, deaths right now from COVID-19. And this is where the disease started, where the virus started, was in Wuhan, China. That's where it started. Nothing against China. They're doing pretty good. They're not doing what we're doing. I think our response right now is so fearful and so, I don't know, like the media, the panic and all this stuff. And it seems to me that with all the measures we have in place, wear gloves, wash your hands, cool. Wear a mask, cool, no problem. That right there, plus the testing we have, testing is good. And a lot of people have gotten the disease or the virus and recovered. A whole lot of people have gotten it and recovered. We've had spring break recently. We're in July now. We just had 4th of July. People were at the beaches in droves during spring break. Some of them got the virus, and some of them didn't. And the ones who did get it, they weren't dying; they were recovering. So, do you see my point? It's not as lethal as people have told us it was in the beginning. There's a lot of mystery to it from the experts. There's a lot of mystery, like what causes it, all these different things, and of course, it started in China and all that. But there's so much mystery to this. Was it a weaponized thing, a weaponized attack from China against us? Maybe. Is this a ploy now that it's here and it's happening for the Democratic Party to try to win the election in November? So they're using this to their advantage? Very likely, very possible. I'm not saying it is, I'm not saying it isn't, but it sure points that way. The way that everything is pointing, it looks that way, because otherwise, what's the holdup in the state of California and other Democratic states where things are just shut down, locked down, the economy is bad, people are laid off, fired, evictions are up there. LA City has 60,000 people on the streets. Just in the city of LA, downtown LA, 60,000 people homeless. They're not practicing social distancing. They can't. They're living on the streets. And guess what? They're living on the streets. They're not dying on the streets. They're living. Why aren't they dying? Why aren't they all sick? How come it hasn't cycled through them and they all have gotten COVID-19 and they're all dead or in the hospital? How come? They're not wearing masks. They're practicing. They're not practicing safe sex. They share drug needles. They live on the streets. There's a lot of prostitutes, crackheads, and just homeless people in general, mentally unstable, mentally ill people, 5150, whatever you want to say. There's a lot of mental health issues in LA County. There's a lot of them, and a lot of them are on the streets. A lot of the people that are living on the streets have mental health issues to a high level, a high level. Some of you may remember when Ronald Reagan was the governor of California, he cut a lot of programs in California for mental health, and he let all those people out on the streets. And it's still that way to this day, where you have a lot of mentally not well people that should be mental patients in some type of institution. They're walking the streets. But they're not all dying of COVID-19. Why is that? That's my question. That's one of my biggest questions. Why is there not a whole lot of dead homeless people? I don't want there to be any dead homeless people. There's families out there, there's kids, there's moms, there's crack addicts, there's crack hoes, prostitutes that smoke crack or meth, and their immune systems are weaker because of drugs and alcohol. Weaker, not